Hello and welcome to the fourth episode walkthrough of The Good Life with SADDO, the sitcom archive deep dive overdrive. I am your co-host, Alison Barton-Simmons.
And I am your other co-host, Eggs Benedict.
This week, like I said, we are on episode 4 of the first season of The Good Life. The episode is called Pig's Lib, where we get to meet Pinky and Perky for the first time.
Yeah, it's one of my, I wouldn't say it's one of my favourite episodes, but I like this one, so I enjoyed watching it again.
I did. It's a nice mixed bag of stuff to dive into.
So this is a watch-along podcast. You can watch along with us. If you go on BritBox, if you're a BritBox subscriber, or you go on dailymotion.com, they're all available to watch for free on there. So, fill your boots and then join us to listen to the corresponding episode.
Or you can get it on DVD as well, like I have.
Yes, of course. Yeah. From a bloke in Leicester.
So, Pig's Lib. We get to meet the pigs that are due to live on Tom and Barbara's land, and also find out what Margo's got to think about the pigs.
Well, before we get stuck into what Margo thinks about the pigs, I've got another round of Does Margo Approve for you, if you're willing to play.
Oh, excellent. Yes, I'd love to play, thank you.
Does Margo approve? Does she approve? Does Margo approve? Does she approve? Does Margo approve? Does she approve? So, just before we get stuck into Does Margo Approve, just from last week's reality TV question, would Margo approve of reality TV? I found an article with Penelope Keith from 2010 where she was, she was just being asked a bunch of questions. It was just a feature on her. And someone asked her whether she would go on Strictly Come Dancing because Felicity Kendal had been on it.
Oh.
And apparently Felicity Kendal had wowed audiences by doing the splits. She must have been, what, in early 60s or something?
Wow, that's amazing.
I think my, pubescent 13-year-old self would have been very excited at that.
You'd have loved that.
Definitely.
Oh, so what did Penelope Keith say about this?
So she said, I don't believe in public humiliation. It went out with the stocks.
Oh my goodness.
Sounds a bit prissy, but then she said, I think it's great if Felicity does that. Good for her. She's fit as a flea. Let her do it. I don't want to. I say as long as you don't frighten the horses, do your own thing.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's definitely a stand, isn't it? That's, that's some opinion.
I don't think there's too much difference between Margo and Penelope Keith, to be perfectly honest.
Doesn't sound like it, does it? No. I'd love to have seen Penelope Keith on Strictly Come Dancing with Margo sort of style dresses, because I'm sure they would have played up to that as well. They would have put her in Margo style frocks.
I'm sure she'd have been very elegant. Well, that's if she can dance.
So.
If you can't dance, then ultimately you're not going to be elegant. But
yeah, that's true. But was she not on with Morecambe and Wise many Christmases ago? Yeah, doing a bit of a dance. It was quite a long time ago, I suppose, though. So
yeah, but Felicity Kendal doing the splits in the 60s, good for her.
Absolutely, every credit. I might have to have a search of that afterwards.
Yeah, and me. I'll get me tissues ready. Sorry, that was unnecessary. So, yeah, that bit's going. That bit's getting edited out. On this week's Does Margo Approve? Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Does Margo approve of rimming? No, I'm only joking. Sorry, I'm in a mischievous mood this week.
All right.
Although, that does remind me, did you see all the COVID-19 advice that came out about...
no, is it on there?
Well, yeah, it's on. It's basically, I think it was aimed at young people, telling them what they can and can't do. And it was like, do not place your tongue around the rectal area or something. And I'm like,
right,
fucking hell, what are kids like these days? What's wrong with just, bit of a snog?
They're all on it. If they're not sucking balloons, they're licking ass.
I know, it's fucking, what's wrong with just fingering someone behind a shed?
No, it's far more extreme.
Anyway,
Wow.
so I'll give you the proper one, okay?
Yes.
Does Margo approve of the Americanization of the English language?
I would say no, she doesn't. Definitely not. It's all Queen's English, received pronunciation, any kind of Americanisms and slang, colloquialisms. No, she's not happy. She's not happy with that at all.
Well, it's a little bit of a trick question because once again, I found a source of Penelope Keith having a good old whinge about the use of the English language in modern Britain. So let me read you.
Really?
Let me read you some of her gripes. Honestly, you'll hear it in Margo's. Well, I'm not going to do an impression, but you'll hear it in Margo's.
But I will
voice.
hear it. Okay.
Yeah. Real conversation has been replaced by text messages and social networking websites, and television pampers to our thirst for public humiliation, says Keith. I agree with that so far. Keith worries that the decline of old-fashioned things such as grammar and elocution, good manners, are disappearing too. The misunderstanding of everyday words, the creeping Americanization of our wonderful language, which she says has now affected the once impervious BBC. Now then, language is my bugbear, she told the Sunday Telegraph. Everyone says things now like, I was sat, instead of I was sitting, which just sounds so ugly. I was like, yeah, I've done that. Sorry, Penelope. I know language has to evolve and progress, but what we're doing is diminishing ours by getting rid of present participles like sitting. It's so much more descriptive than I was sat, which really offends me.
Oh no.
So she sat there proper curmudgeon at home in Devon or wherever she lives. And of course, American pronunciation too. If I hear anyone else say irrevocable on the Today programme, I shall break every wireless in the world.
Oh, not the wireless. Oh.
The fucking wireless is gone. I recently did a Noel Coward play and someone on the team told me they'd researched it, she says, with a shudder. Does she mean... So we would say researched and they say researched.
Researched. It's just a different pronunciation, isn't it?
Keith suggests that the rise of social networking, whereby people communicate using websites such as Facebook or Twitter without having to talk to one another, is having a detrimental effect on their ability to speak clearly. In this great age of communication, there are a lot of people you can't actually understand. I know everyone tweets and twits and texts and all that, but actually we've all got voices and it's awfully nice to hear them. And if you can understand what people are saying, we have this wonderful language and we don't appreciate it. That's old-fashioned of me, but when I went to school, everyone had elocution lessons. Not to sound posh, but so one could be understood. And that's such a Margo phrase, that, isn't it?
That is. Oh, do you think she goes round and corrects the grammar on, like, boards outside shops?
Like that guy with the apostrophizer.
Yeah,
he's a hero,
it
isn't
really
he?
annoys me that. Oh, it really does get on my nerves. I find it, just let people be, you know. Is it the end of the world if there's a spelling mistake or an apostrophe in the wrong place?
Probably not. But then there's two businesses that are downstairs from me where I'm in my office now. One's called Ben's, nothing to do with me, by the way. One's called Ben's Buns and one's called Ben's Roasts. And one of them has got the apostrophe and the other one hasn't. Guess which one I refuse to frequent?
Yeah. Do you have to be called Ben to work in your building then? Is that like a provisor?
They're not all in the same building. Yeah, we all live on Ben Street. It's like Neville and his sons.
Oh, well, I can understand it being a feeling that she's got, that it is nice when... Oh, is it nice when people speak nicely? Does it matter? I don't know.
She's been a bit prissy, I think, but
she is, and she does sound very Margo.
It sounded so Margo, and I just thought there's really a thin line between these two people. And it did make me think of an ad I ran years ago for my business for copywriting, which I put on the ad. I put, when attempting to make a good first impression, imagine how important using good grammar is. Wrong, importanter. Didn't get much business from that. It was a joke, but I don't think it came across.
No.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So episode 4, Pig's Lib. We see Tom at the newsagents picking up his latest issue of Pig Breeder magazine, which is quite a niche title, but obviously of use to him, which he pays for with eggs from the chickens. So we get to see barter in action. We get to see this new lifestyle and how it's actually working out there in real life, which is great to see.
Imagine that today, though. Imagine that today, that like you wanted to buy, I don't know, Fabrics Monthly, and you went into your local newsagent, and then you just produced a rasher of bacon or something, I don't know, to try and pay for it. It wouldn't go down well, would it?
It wouldn't. And it just feels like a simpler time where you could sort of do things like this. And it'd be quite meaningful that you could swap something that somebody else needed for something that you wanted.
Yeah, he was well up for it, the newsagent. He seemed fine with it.
Yeah. And the newsagent also, with his potato peelings, which he passes on to Tom, for the animals. So it's, you can see the wheels of motion of this new self-sustainable lifestyle sort of working out there in the community. We're not now just still inside the goods house. We're out there and we can see them doing the do, which is great.
They're living the life. And what I also loved about the newsagent was the fucking wall of fags behind the newsagent. I've never seen a wall of fags that's so large in all my life. It just shows how much of a nation of smokers we were in the 70s, really, doesn't it? Absolutely,
because it's just something that you don't come across anymore. In fact, you don't even think about it in a shop anymore because they're behind them big shutters. Over here they are, in the UK, they're behind big shutters. You don't get to see cigarettes at all anymore.
Oh, well, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. So back at the goods house, we have Barbara meeting with the window cleaner, who obviously comes round on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, whatever, to clean the windows at the house. And now it's not something that she sees as being essential anymore. So tries to sort of come to some arrangement with the window cleaner in order to have the windows cleaned, but not have to give money. And they're obviously coming at it from cross purposes because the window cleaner thinks he's onto a winner with Barbara. While Barbara's not thinking along the lines of sex at all. She is thinking, I could give you a...
blowjob. No. I don't know what she was thinking.
A box of eggs or just something that would be surplus to requirements at the good house. But the window cleaner, every credit, was very respectful and just went away in shame, which very, very apologetic for.
I felt sorry for him. Didn't you feel sorry for him? Because really, she was making cow eyes and acting very sort of flirtatious. So
yes.
And then she said, well, it's the oldest form of business in the world, which prostitution is. So you can understand him getting mixed up, you know.
Yeah.
And he was so ashamed, wasn't he? He sort of, give her free window cleaning after that.
Oh dear, Mrs. Good, I really cannot apologise enough.
What?
I am most terribly sorry.
What for?
Mrs. Good, please allow me to do your windows free, gratuitously.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
But I must, and I'm sorry. I really am. I really am sorry. Deeply.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Aww.
Poor fella.
Bless him.
He went home and had a furious wank.
Tom comes back and meets Margo, who he asks about keeping hold of her scraps to give to the animals. And Margo sees this as begging, though. She sees it as he's asking for things that he's not due. And she's got better things to do with her rubbish than throw it away because she puts it down the disposal unit, which Tom finds it quite hard to convince her that the right way would be to give him the scraps to give to the animals. But Margot's just not having any of it at all.
No, and I think Tom's being a bit entitled, to be honest. I know that my Tom prejudice is probably coming into play, but he turns up and he's like, everyone's giving me some, you've got to give me some. And he was just really kind of aggressive in it. I'd have just told him to fuck off, to be honest, but she was just... get off my Paisy craving or whatever. Did I say Paisy craving? Crazy Paisy.
Paisy craving. Get off my Paisy craving. But I don't know. I tend to agree with Tom, though. If she's putting it down the disposal unit, then she could give it to Tom. It just seems less wasteful. Tom does drop into this conversation the fact that they will be keeping pigs on the land, which Margo is absolutely horrified by. And obviously... already thinking that this is going to go wrong, and if they get onto my land, and what will I do then? So she's already sort of thinking ahead to the problems that this is going to cause.
She's not happy. Yeah.
And then we head into the house and we see Barbara making cheese with tights. Was the sort of setup that she had, I had to sort of like rewind it and have a quick watch of that. So was she squeezing the milk through the tights?
I didn't
to
really
collect
understand.
the cheese.
I mean, I knew she was making goat's cheese, and she was squeezing stuff, but maybe they were tights. I'm not sure. I'm not au fait with the process of homemade goat's cheese
making.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure.
Jerry then gets sent round to the Goods house by Margo, asking about the pigs, and to tell them that Margo is already planning to bring in the new chair of the Residents Association, Mr. Carter, to put a firm stop to this, because obviously this is going to cause so many issues.
Yeah, and I think the Goods show themselves being typically silly, you know, the way they like to mess about, and it's quite endearing.
Yes.
They're like, oh no, not Mr. Carter. Who's Mr. Carter? You know, they were just being very flippant to Jerry's Mr. Carter threat, really.
Yes. Yes. So we're in the Goods living room, and of course Barbara is testing her wellies, which have been fixed after having a hole in them. So she's stomping around in a bucket to make sure that they no longer leak. And in sachets Margo with Mr. Carter, who is the new head of the Residents Association, to chat about the inclusion of pigs on the land at the Goods house. And Margot's got a great air of authority that she immediately thinks that this is all going to go her way. Yeah,
of superiority more than anything. She was she was very looking down her nose at the Goods in these scenes, I thought. But she wasn't even the most dislikable one in the scene, because Tom, I'm off again. Tom is like immediately on the defensive with Carter before Carter says anything. You know, he comes in, doesn't he? And then he's like, "Look here, Carter." I was like, "Fucking hell." Are arguments ever won that start with "look here"?
Look here. Mr. Carter turns out to be what he describes himself as being an unbiased referee, and he is very fair, and he's almost sort of siding with the Goods from the get-go anyway. Because he sees that he could see the relevance of their lifestyle and the choices that they're making. And he's there really to sort of just pacify Margo, really, and do his job, which I think he does quite well.
Yes. Points from Mr. Carter, who incidentally was also in Porridge and George and Mildred.
Ah.
He was a sitcom actor of some... I don't know, how do you describe these guys who prop up in everything but they never lead in roles? It's like the equivalent of a session musician, you know?
Yeah. The familiar faces, but not people that are sort of at the head of the credits, aren't they?
Yeah. But I thought he was really good in it.
I like the character.
Yeah.
And I sort of was, because Margo had dragged him in, I'm thinking, oh, is he just going to shout them down? And but actually, he turns out to be quite a fair guy. He's a writer, so sort of understands the struggling existence of the Goods. And I think he's got Margot's measure before he even gets there.
Definitely. I think it was an opportunity missed not to have him back, because he could have been a good mediator. But I think in many ways this is a turning point for Margot's character anyway, because after this episode, without wanting to jump ahead too much, she becomes more sympathetic. Might be the wrong word. She's willing to make more compromises following this episode, and she's more supportive of Tom and Barbara. So perhaps this character of Mr. Carter wasn't really needed.
There's a decision made at the end of this scene as well, that if these pigs cause a problem, there's a mutual agreement that they'll get rid of them. And obviously the Goods are thinking that's not going to happen, and Margot's thinking, yep, brilliant, like one trotter over the line and these pigs are out of here.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then next scene, we see the pigs have escaped under the fence into the Ledbetter's garden, and they're having a right good sniff and dig around. And we see Margo, who's obviously scoped out that the pigs are there, and then we see them being carried away and put into the back of a truck, which is very sad.
To the theme tune of the bloody funeral march. Pretty morbid.
Yes.
Two things I liked about these scenes, though, were when Tom and Barbara realised that the pig had dug the tunnel and gone underneath, we had that reveal brass tone again, except without the zoom that freaks you out.
Yes.
There was the brass tone while we go, oh my God, the pig's dug a tunnel, oh shit. And then Margo comes out and she seems to be carrying I think she's watering the plants, but she's carrying like a genie in a bottle. Yeah, she's got a watering
can.
Thing. More like a genie in a bottle.
It's a very small watering can, yes. Because that's like you said, I think in a previous episode, you have noticed that Margo does a lot of little bits of watering. There's no sort of getting your hands dirty on your hands and knees. She's just like sprinkling water around.
Yeah. I think she's probably just
on her bedding plants,
rubbing the lamp, and a gardening genie comes out and does it all for her.
Getting somebody else to do it. Yeah. Yes.
Good life.
So the pigs have been taken away, but Jerry does say something quite poignant actually. That he says, "I'd rather have Tom and Barbara as our friends with pigs," because he can see now that there's this sort of change in their relationship because they know that they've upset Tom and Barbara.
Well, it's got the potential
by making them get rid of the pigs.
Yeah, it's got the potential to be like a cataclysmic event, hasn't it? Because you know, it will really upset their neighbours, and Jerry values their friendship more than he values not living next to pigs, which I think he expresses quite. This is what I like about Jerry. Even though he's really henpecked, when he sees a moral issue, he speaks up. It speaks his mind, and I think that leaves something of an impression on Margo, doesn't it?
You'd hope so, definitely.
And then she heads round, of course, to sort of make amends if she can with the goods, I think, in the very next scene.
She does. They're busy drinking Peapod wine at this time as well to sort of commiserate the pigs being shunted off to market. And the Peapod wine is quite a potent drink that they make themselves. So much so that Tom describes it as hurting the back of his eyes.
Yeah, that's a great line. I was glad to see the introduction of the Peapod wine, and it motivated me to go and have a look online to see if I could find a recipe for Peapod wine. Sorry.
And is it a thing?
Yeah, and I'm proposing to make myself 3 gallons of Peapod Burgundy wine following this YouTube tutorial that I found. One review reads, "Gingery flavour to it, drinkable, but it's useful being quite tight beforehand," which I presume refers to the sphincter. So if that doesn't sell it to you, I don't know what does.
Oh, that's get on it. I think I'd like to see that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. I'll try and make some next time I come over to the UK.
Margo then comes round, and she wants to just check that they're all still friends. And she joins in with the drinking with Barbara.
Her reaction's funny, isn't it?
Margo thinks that the pigs have been sent away to like a retirement home. She didn't realise that the pigs would be sent off to the slaughterhouse if they were sent away. So the realisation really upsets her, that she's done such a horrendous, tragic thing that's upset her friend so much. Yeah,
I think she sort of quite melodramatically says, "Stop it, for goodness sake, stop it." And she's just very naive. She doesn't realise, does she, that pigs, unwanted pigs, are not put out to pasture.
No, they are sent to be made into bacon.
Lovely, yummy bacon.
So she sends Tom off with the keys to her car to go and get them. And Barbara and Margo carry on drinking and playing cards. And this tickled me actually, the card game, as Barbara just keeps saying twist until she gets to about 75 and then busts.
Margo's twist is very aggressive, isn't it? I wouldn't want to play pontoon with Penelope Keith the way she twists.
No.
Take your bloody table off.
But at this stage, Margo is still very sort of damning of Tom, and she says, "If I have nightmares, it'll be Tom's fault for telling her about the slaughterhouse, not for the fact that she has sort of instigated this to happen. It's Tom's fault for actually telling her what the outcome would be.
Yeah.
But they both end up quite melancholic and crying, and Margo feels guilty until they hear the door go and Tom comes back with the pigs.
Yay!
And Barbara is ecstatic and Margo is very relieved. However, the twist at the end is that these aren't Pinky and Perky. These are two of the pigs that Tom has found to replace the initial pigs and to sort of put the situation right again. And he says to the pigs that they're not to say anything, that they're not Pinky and Perky. But if they do tell anyone, it's sausage time.
Yeah.
Which also made me laugh a little bit.
I think it was another redeeming Tom moment because it was his act of kindness and being uncharacteristically considerate in not coming home going, I was too late, but just bringing home two other pigs and kidding on that it was the same pigs, both to Margo and to Barbara. I would have thought Barbara's got the smarts enough to work it out, but...
Yeah, pigs have patches, don't they? Should be able to tell if it's Pinky and Perky, I'm sure.
Yeah. I like the fact that when Margo agrees that the pigs can come back, Tom goes, Margo, thanks, sexy. And she says, don't be silly.
Don't be silly. It was lovely, yes. And it's seeing that friendliness and the sort of eventual relationship that you see between the four of them that comes later on. You sort of start to see little clips of that now as well, which is lovely.
Yeah, I think it's a real turning point episode for Margo particularly because she's been quite unpleasant up to this point.
Yes.
And Barbara even points out that she acted very decently in the end while they're playing Pontoon. And what you're seeing really in this episode is, I guess it's like the conflict between emotion and stoicism. As what's the right thing to do versus what's the sensible thing to do. And you see that again in future episodes, even with pigs, because there's that one with the runt of the litter that they're going to have put down. And Tom was initially very stoic, saying, well, that's what you do with the runt of the litter, but without revealing any spoilers, no pigs die in that episode. Yeah. Which is nice.
And we've all sort of done things that then you later regret. And I think this is a good turning point for Margo in terms of not just acting on what you want to get out of something, but to see the bigger picture and to appreciate the fact that other people feel things as well. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think she's what we see from here on afterwards is a much more relatable and compromising character in Margo, and this is where we warm to her, I think, because so far, she's certainly not won any of our MVPs, has she? She's not been our favourite, so I suppose that's a seamless link into asking maybe who was your main player in this one?
In this episode, I'm going to say Mr. Carter.
Well, this will be his one and only win.
At least one, yeah. He doesn't come back, but I think that the introduction of Mr. Carter as a character and his ability to manage Margo could be why we see a more pleasant, affable Margo from now onwards. She still has a little foibles and things, but I think this is what lubricates the Margo change of character, which is I quite like.
Yeah. I'm going to give it to Margo herself because I think this is the one where she sort of comes of age, so to speak, in the show. I almost gave it to Tom for his act of kindness, but I thought I've been too nice to Tom lately. So I'm giving it to Margo for her turnaround and being a good egg. Incidentally, are you keeping track of these ratings? Because I haven't been. I've no idea who's on the leaderboard.
No, I've got a. Maybe we need to. Then we can.
Yeah, we'll have to start
doing it. It's going to be like a winner at the end of the series.
Yeah, and if it's one of the living cast members, we'll send them a little plaque.
Oh, I think we should.
if it's
and a bottle of your Peapod wine.
Yeah, we'll send her one of them, and if it's Felicity Kendal, we'll send a statue of someone doing the splits.
Yes.
And if it's Margo, if it's Penelope Keith, we'll just send her a dictionary or something because she clearly likes
Yes.
People who are well-spoken. But, yeah, I think I can only see it being Margo in the end, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
So on the subject of Mr. Carter, who I thought was quite nattily dressed, let's have a little trip over to Al's Fashion Corner.
Fashion corner, fashion corner. Fashion corner, fashion corner.
Oh, there's lots and lots to chat about in this episode. Margo has an array, actually, of different outfits in this episode. She does re-wear the blue and green and white dress that she had on in the last episode, which is one of my faves. And if I can search this down in any shape or form, whether it's material, clothes or whatever, I am going to buy the hell out of it because I want the dress. I really do. Margo also appears in a powder blue pantsuit and navy top, which is quite reminiscent of Jackie Onassis, which I thought was very stylish, very of the time, but beautiful. And there's also an orange and brown and blue striped muumuu number, which is like a florally dress.
Is this the one where she wears that horrendous necklace as well with it?
I don't know.
You're probably going to say you like the necklace.
Wasn't.
She had this
I wasn't drawn to the necklace.
Loud necklace on in one scene.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I thought it was.
It was the muumuu. The muumuu did it for me. Very 70s. Very sort of lying about the house drinking gin. But yeah, beautiful. Mr. Carter's blue neckerchief, as we've mentioned, he's very nattily dressed. But the neckerchief is like a silk scarf that he has on.
He's the latest, isn't he? He's the latest member of the Cravat Club, which seems to be growing in this show. All the men seem to wear it.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a mid-70s thing, because I don't necessarily associate the 70s with every man wearing a cravat, but every guest who comes into this show seems to sport one.
I think Mr. Carter just at one point, Mr. Carter's sort of thing, it was more of a neckerchief than a cravat, and I don't know whether that was to sort of mark him out as being not in the same sort of class league as like Jerry, for example, who would wear a cravat, and Sir with his cravat. The neckerchief, because obviously Mr. Carter had said that he was a writer and he'd struggled. Whether it was sort of like a class thing, marking him out as being not of the sort of managerial class, perhaps. But it was still a beautiful silk scarf that he had on. It was lovely.
Perhaps they should differentiate the classes with neckerchief, cravat.
Neckerchief,
and
cravat.
And then neither of the above, which is probably the rag and bone man from the last episode.
Yeah, piece of string. That's the other one.
Yeah.
Special mention to Barbara in her navy blue overalls and yellow shirt combo, which that's my favourite outfit of the episode. The navy and yellow. Even though she's outdoor working, she's obviously not lying about the house drinking gin, perhaps like Margo. There's just something timeless about what she's got on, and I know it's just overalls and a yellow shirt, but I think she looked smart. She looked beautiful.
Yeah.
As only Felicity Kendal can.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
Coming up next week, we've got episode 5 of the first season of The Good Life, which, Ben, what's it called?
It's episode 5 is called The Thing in the Cellar.
Oh.
Does that ring any bells?
It does, yes. Is it to do with the generator?
Yeah, it's a little bit anticlimactic, really, because that makes it sound like there's a monster. And it's, in fact, Tom's homemade generator. But that's more in line with the premise of the show.
Yeah, not Rent-A-Ghost.
No, but what a crossover that would have been.
Oh, no. I didn't like Mr. Claypole. I thought he was very frightening.
No, but Miss Popov was good. I can't see Margo and Miss Popov sharing a scene somehow. They both chew the scenery too much.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry.
So if you are listening along with us and enjoying the podcast, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. You can check us out on Twitter and on Instagram at SADDO Podcast. On Facebook, you can find us by searching SADDO Podcast. We have a website, www.saddo.club, where you can get more information or listen to the episodes. Email us at saddopodcast@gmail.com. And please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, that really helps us out, I think, because we're a fledgling podcast and we're quite niche, aren't we? Focusing on every single episode of The Good Life isn't something that any other podcasts are doing. But perhaps there are people out there who would like to join yourselves and us each week as we have a deep dive into every episode. Of course, when this series of The Good Life finishes, we're going to be moving on to do other series as well. So let us know if you think there's one that we should have a look at next.
Thanks for listening along, and we'll see you next time.
See ya!